Hello and welcome to D6 Tabletop. In this video, let's take a look at basing your minis in the quickest, simplest and easiest way possible that I think really gives the best effect for the least amount of effort. When we look at our minis looking down on the table when we're playing the games, we see more of the base than we actually do see of the mini, so it's important that that base looks good but also complements the mini to help show it off when we do look at it. So a nice simple way of doing this is the colour wheel. Using the colour wheel allows you to find the opposite colour to what your main paint scheme is, and that helps it pop from the base. Now a couple of examples of this is just a simple blue ultramarine from the Space Marines, and because they are blue, on the colour wheel the opposite is to red, oranges and yellows. He's been based in a red base coat with some yellow dry brush to really make him stand out. So when you look at him on the table, you can see the model clearly from the base, so he doesn't get lost on the table and makes your paint job stand out that bit more. Now this is very easy kind of basing. It's all in one pot, so that's one type. Another example, we've got a rider of Rohan here. He's mainly greens, browns, blacks. He's quite a complicated colour scheme because he's got lots of different colours. But what they've all got in common is that they are opposite or can be amplified by having a greyish base. Now on this base, you'll see it's got lots of different stones. This is all from a simple basing technique as well. So let me show you both of them quite quickly. Both of them take a few minutes to do. If you want to go for the red style, which is a texture paint, this is all in one. You paint it onto the base and it dries out and it just leaves this stony texture that you can then dry brush on afterwards. Or this method is using PVA glue onto the base and dipping it into a pre-made basing dip. The two most popular ones I use for pre-basing dips is Geek Gaming Scenics. They do a whole range of these for different colours. I've got ones that are in red, I've got ones that are in grey, I've got ones that are in blue, I've got flowers, I've got grimdark, I've got ones with crystals in. They do a wide variety of different options for your base. For the other effect, you use stuff like this called texture paint. Games Workshop do their own version. I think it's grossly expensive for what it is. I much prefer to use either Vallejo or in this case AK's Wargame Terrain Diorama. They come in smaller pots like this, which are more of a specialised colour, or they can come in really large pots such as this for doing much bigger projects. And all they simply are, they're a brush on paint. You take your mini, you base it in this, you brush it on, you let it dry, and that's it. It dries out and it's done. So we'll show it here on a single base. So it's quite simple. It is a thickish style paint. The more you put on, the more of an effect it will give. Now with mine, I like to push it onto the actual feet of the model as well to make it look like it's walking through it as if it's stepping onto it. And all we do is we layer it onto the base, and you can build it up or put it on as thin as you want. This paint does tend to shrink a touch when you put it on, so I tend to lather it on a bit more to cause some more texture. And of course it will dry in the same build as what you put it on. So if you pile a lot on, it will dry as quite a large mound on the base. If you put a thin amount on, it'll only dry in a thin amount. And it goes on like a regular paint. It's just got a kind of sand put in with it. I say, and I push it all into those areas on the base. I like to, you'll see on the back of this model, I'm going up over his ankle because I like to make it look like he's actually walking through it and becomes part of the base with it rather than just being stood on top. That's that one done. It's as simple as that. You leave it to dry, which takes a couple of hours depending on conditions, and when it comes back it will look something a bit like this. So this one's all dried out. It's all the same muted red. It's dried out. It looks a bit like sandpaper really. It's got all those textures and their bubbles on it, and from here you can do whatever you want to amplify it some more. For mine, I'll take a bit of Avalon Sunset and then I will dry brush it onto the base just to bring out some of that raised detail. It hasn't got to be the best paint job in the world. It's basing, so when you're dry brushing this stuff, you tend to put a bit more on your brush than what you would put on for basing, for dry brushing a model. And because I like to think of the light hitting down on the model, I don't worry about pushing it into the recesses, because I'd like to imagine that that's where the shadows are naturally anyway. So I mainly just dry brush around the outside of the model where it would be seen normally. And then you can go from here and you can put bits of tufts on, or other rocks, or go a bit further and use some UV resin to make a little lake or stuff like that. I've done it before with purple, another colour which I think works quite well against red. And it's as simple as that. Now for me, that's amplified that model certainly enough for me for tabletop finish, but also I quite like the desert sand look against these blue. So that's one method. So for the glue and dip method, you'll need PVA glue and a basing dip. It's a very easy method. I really like the Geek Gaming Scenics stuff. It's what I use pretty much if I'm doing this stuff. So the way I do it, you can either put the glue onto your palette and brush it on, or put it straight onto the model. I'm going to use a little test mini I used here for figuring out contrast paints. But you just glue onto the mini, take your brush and spread it around. Now because of this, the grit and everything on this, you do make sure you put on a good amount of glue. Just a thin glaze won't be enough to get the material to stick to the base. So you make sure you put a decent amount on to your mini, like so. And then it's simple as stick it to the base, give it a wiggle around, knock off the excess. Sometimes I run my thumb around the outside just to take the worst off of the excess base. And there we go. This is a bit of a fine sand one. It's called Toon World, so it's mainly very fine sand with these green gems in, based on Necrons, I would assume. The other one I use is Grimdark Ruins, or Grimdark City, and this is the one that's got all the stones into it as well. What I tend to do is these bigger bits won't stick when you glue it, so I'll pick them out of the basing and I will stick them on separately afterwards, just to get the effect I want. And there we have it. I think it's a very simple, very quick and effective way of basing minis, but still making them look good. The colour wheel is a very good source of this. You look at your colour scheme, you look what's on the opposite side of it, and you make that the main colour for your basing scheme. Another example, this red, I like it with greens as well, so here's something out of a Dark Angel one that I worked on ages ago. But again, the red and the green here I think works really well. But yeah, so that is a simple, quick video on basic basing materials that I use to get good effects. Texture paints, in my case the AK diorama range, or the glue and dip method using Geek Gaming Scenics' range of fantastic options for dipping in. I hope this video has been useful. If you do like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking on the video and commenting on the video. Perhaps there's even another product that I don't know of yet that you use that you might be able to share your experiences with within the channel. Please put that comment below. And likewise, anything else you want me to cover, or any hobby topics or anything like that, let me know and I'll see what I can do. So until the next one, take care and we'll see you then.